My name's Stephen USSR Robinson, and thank you for watching Sporting Icons.
So on November the 7th, King Kong Luis Ortiz is set to make his in-ring return. And of course, last time he fought, he got stopped by Deontay Wilder after handling Wilder quite comfortably. But again, he keeps on making these amateur mistakes. I've said it time and time again, I think fighters can spend too long in the amateur system. And I think King Kong Luis Ortiz is one of them. Anyway, he's going to be taking on Alexander Flores. Now, I don't know whether or not Roy Jones Jr. is still part of the team of Alexander Flores. I don't know. But if he is, that's probably the only selling tool behind this one. By the way, it's a headline fight as well. Alexander Flores, who's taken some losses. In fact, he's been stopped by Joseph Parker and Charles Martin. Now, this is a headline fight for Luis Ortiz. And people keep telling me how Luis Ortiz is the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. Complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. This is the kind of guys that Luis Ortiz racks up his resume with. I used to be a massive fan of Luis Ortiz, but it's getting to the point where it's just becoming embarrassing now. Alexander Flores, this is the best guy that you could possibly pull out. And people say, well, he's coming off of a loss against Deontay Wilder. Okay. Well, Anthony Joshua came off of a loss against Andy Ruiz Jr. Jumped straight back in there with him. Dillian White is coming off of a loss against Alexander Povetkin, and he's getting straight back in there with him. Deontay Wilder's coming off of a loss against Tyson Fury. He's getting straight back in there with him. Now, I'm not saying that Luis Ortiz wouldn't get back in the ring with Wilder. Of course he would, because he shows against Wilder, he handles Wilder no problem. But Wilder just seems to pull out that punch, okay? But people keep telling me how Luis Ortiz is the boogeyman. Now, here's a couple of little facts for you, okay? In the last 5 years, Luis Ortiz only fought 10 times. And we have to go back to 2015 for his best win, which is a Bryant Jennings. Bryant Jennings, who the fight before then lost to Vladimir Klitschko. Then he beat Tony Thompson. In fact, I think he actually retired Tony Thompson at that point. Tony Thompson, who had already had 6 losses on his resume. Okay, a couple of them were against Klitschko. Okay, but still. Then he took on a Malik Scott. Malik Scott, who had already previously been knocked out by Derek Chisora. Malik Scott, who got punched on the gloves by Deontay Wilder and hit the deck. Luis Ortiz went the distance with him because he couldn't cut off the ring with Malik Scott. Then he fought Dave Allen. Dave Allen at that time was a prospect. He only had 11 fights. Dave Allen was 2 seconds away from getting into the final round with Luis Ortiz. Then he fought a Daniel Martz. 16 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw. Daniel Martz, a journeyman. Then, of course, he got his opportunity for the world title against Deontay Wilder. Now, at that time, for those of you who were following boxing back then, you will know what I'm about to tell you is exactly how it was. Luis Ortiz, he was a WBA mandatory, okay? And he was set to take on Anthony Joshua, who had just won the title against Vladimir Klitschko, okay? So he could have had that fight. All he had to do was wait for Anthony Joshua to beat Carlos Takam. Then he would have fought Luis Ortiz. But he didn't want to do that. He went and fought Deontay Wilder. Listen, he gave Wilder all the work that Wilder could possibly handle. And Wilder was very, very lucky to get out of that, was it 7th round? Very, very lucky. Still, okay, he did put on a good performance. But rather than keep the ball rolling and start actually adding some decent names to his resume, get the experience, no, he went in with Razvan Kajanu. Razvan Kajanu, he's got multiple losses on his record. His last fight, actually, he lost to F.A. Jagba. He's lost to Daniel Dubois. He's lost to Nathan Gorman. He's lost to Joseph Parker and others. That's the kind of level of opposition that Luis Ortiz has fought. Then he fought a Travis Kaufman, who nearly went the distance with Luis Ortiz. He wasn't too far away from the final bell. Okay, he did get hit to the canvas on a couple of occasions in that fight. Luis Ortiz handled him no problem. But yet again, Luis Ortiz showed that he cannot cut the ring off. But again, a Travis Kaufman. Then he fought a Christian Hammer, who had already had 5 losses on his resume. In fact, one of those losses was against Tyson Fury, where he quit in that fight. So, what kind of opposition is Luis Ortiz fighting? Yeah, he's the boogeyman. Okay, sure, he fought Deontay Wilder again. Only because he knows that he can outbox Deontay Wilder. But yeah, again, he made that amateur mistake, as I said earlier on, and got caught. And now he's going to be taking on Alexander Flores. This is the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. Luis Ortiz, and there are receipts for this, he turned down $2 million to fight Dillian Whyte at the O2 Arena on pay-per-view, and he turned down $7 million to take on Anthony Joshua, which is why Andy Ruiz Jr. got the nod. Ain't nobody telling me this guy is the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. He ain't no boogeyman. Boogeyman for what? Maybe the boogeyman for some journeymen, maybe. But that's it. And this is the headline on the PBC. Now, I'm not saying the PBC are doing a bad job, not at all. They're putting on some very good shows. Most notably, the Charlo show. That was a fantastic show. And they've done some okay ones, and they've got a couple of okay ones coming up. Most notably with Tank Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz. But this is terrible. Luis Ortiz, you need to get your backside out of your grandma's purse. Honestly. And actually start fighting some proper opponents. You want to be called the boogeyman? Well, start fighting some proper opponents. Why don't you do that? You know, damn boogeyman. Alexander Flores, have an absolute word. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.